Cool. I've already answered one. Is that just the... That's the no answers one. Alright, okay. Let's reset. Pro tip, if you want to get your streak up and you can't be asked to do anything, just come into one of these that has a no answer needed and just click complete. Right, so Metasploit is the most widely used exploitation framework. Metasploit is a powerful tool that can support all phases of a penetration test engagement, from information gathering to post-exploitation. Metasploit has two main versions: Metasploit Pro, which is the commercial version that facilitates an automation of management of tasks. This version has a graphical user interface. Metasploit Framework is the open source version that works from command line. This room will focus on this version installed on the attack box and most commonly used penetration testing Linux distributions. The Metasploit Framework is a set of tools that allows information gathering, scanning, exploitation, exploit development, post-exploitation, and more. While the primary usage of Metasploit Framework focuses on the penetration testing domain, it's also useful for vulnerability research and exploit development. The main components of the Metasploit Framework can be summarized as follows: MSF console, modules, which supporting modules such as exploit, scanners, payloads. Tools are standalone tools that will help vulnerability research, vulnerability assessment, penetration testing. Some of these tools are MSF Venom, Pattern Create, Pattern Offset. We'll cover MSF Venom within the module, but Pattern Create and Offset are tools useful in exploit development, but this is beyond the scope of the module. This room will cover the main components of Metasploit while providing you with a solid foundation on how to find relevant exploits, set parameters, exploit vulnerable services. Once you've completed this room, you'll be able to navigate and use Metasploit command line comfortably. You can deploy and use the attack box. Yeah, that's fine. I'm not doing that. I do need to start this again though, so let's get that going. VPN on. Main components of Metasploit. While using the framework, you'll be primarily interacting with the Metasploit console. You can launch it from the attack box using MSF console, which we can do here. Let's just make it. Ooh. So MSF console. Starting up. So the console will be your main interface to interact with the different modules of Metasploit Framework. Modules are small components within the Metasploit Framework that are built to perform a specific task, such as exploiting a vulnerability, scanning a target, or performing a brute force. Before diving into modules, it'd be helpful to clarify a few recurring concepts: vulnerability, exploit, and payload. An exploit is a piece of code that uses a vulnerability present on a target system. A vulnerability is a design, coding, or logic flaw affecting the target system. The exploitation of the vulnerability can result in disclosing confidential information about the attacker, allowing the attacker to execute code on the target system. A payload is an exploit that will take advantage of a vulnerability. However, if we want the exploit to have the result we want, gaining access to target system, reading confidential information, we need to use a payload. Payloads are the code that will run on the target system. Modules and categories. Under each one are listed below. There are given reference purposes you will interact with through the Metasploit command console. Auxiliary. Any supporting module such as scanners, crawlers, and fuzzers can be found within Auxiliary. Encoders allow you to encode, exploit, and payload in the hope that signature-based antivirus solutions may miss them. Signature-based antivirus and security solutions have a database of known threats that they detect threats by comparing suspicious files in this database and raise an alert if it matches. Thus, encoders can have a limited success rate as antiviruses perform additional checks. Evasion. While encoders will encode the payload, they should not be considered a direct attempt to evade the antivirus. On the other hand, evasion will try that, with more or less success. Exploits neatly organized by a target system. So you've got like Android, BSD, Linux, And no ops, no operations do nothing, quite literally. They're represented in the Intel x86 family and are represented with a 0x90, following which the CPU will do nothing for one cycle. They're often used as a buffer to achieve a consistent payload size. Payloads are code that will run on the target system. Exploits will leverage a vulnerability on the target system, but to achieve the desired result, we'll need a payload. Why do they repeat the same phrasing? Examples could be getting a shell, loading malware or backdoor onto the target, running a command, launching calc.exe as a proof of concept to add to a pen test report, starting the calculator on the target remotely by launching the calc.exe as a benign way to show that we can run commands on the target. Running commands on the target system is already an important step, but having an interactive connection that allows you to type commands that will be executed on the target system is better, such as an interactive command line which is called a shell. Metasploit offers the ability to send different payloads that can open shells on the target system. You will see 3 different directories under payloads: singles, stages, and stages. Singles are self-contained payloads. They add user, launch notepad. They do not need to download an additional component to run. Stages are responsible for setting up a connection channel between Metasploit and the target system, useful when working with stage payloads. Stage payloads will first upload a stager onto the target system, then download the rest of the payload. This provides some advantages, as the initial size of the payload will be relatively small compared to the full payload sent at once. Stages are downloaded by the stager that will allow you to use larger size payloads. Metasploit has a subtle way of helping you identify a single, also called an inline payload. We've got generic shell reverse TCP, Windows reverse TCP. Both of these are reverse shells. The former is an inline or single payload as indicated by the underscore between shell, while the latter is a stage payload indicated with the slash between the shell. And reverse. Post modules will be useful for the final stage of penetration testing, post-exploitation. If you wish to familiarise yourself with further of these modules, you can find them under the modules folder of the Metasploit install. The attack box are under opt Metasploit framework modules. What is the name of the code taking advantage of a flaw on the target system? Payload or exploit. What is the name of the code that runs on the target system to achieve the attacker's goal? Okay, this is the payload. Okay. What are the self-contained payloads called? Inline? Singles? Is Windows x64 pingback reverse TCP among singles or staged? It's singles because it's got the underscore. It's easy enough. Go to the top. Right, as previously mentioned, the console will be your main interface into Metasploit framework. You can launch it on the MSF console command, which we've done. Once launched, you'll see the command line changes to MSF5 or MSF6 depending on the installed version of Metasploit. Metasploit console can be used just like the regular command line shell, if you can see below. The first command is ls, which lists the contents of the folder from which Metasploit was launched using the MSF console command. It's doing nothing. This is followed by a ping sent to Google's DNS. As we operate from the attack box, which is Linux, we had to add the -C1 option so that only a single ping was sent. Otherwise, the ping could be continued until it was stopped at Control-C. It will support most Linux commands, including clear, to clear the terminal screen, but will not allow you to use some features of a regular command line. that does not support output redirection. While on the subject, the help command can be used on its own for a specific command. Below is the help menu for the set command, which will cover soon. You can use the history command to see commands you've typed earlier. An important feature of MSF Console in the support of tab completion. Okay, is the support, not in. Can't read today. This will come in handy when using Metasploit commands or dealing with modules. For example, if you start typing key and press the tab key, it will autocomplete to help. Cool story. MSF Console is managed by context. This means that unless set as a global variable, all parameters settings will be lost if you change the module. In the example below, we have used the MSF17 Eternal Blue exploit, and we have set the parameters such as remote hosts. If we were to switch to another module, e.g. a port scanner, we would need to set the rhost value again, as all values we've made remain in the context of the Eternal Blue exploit. Let's look at some examples to have a better understanding of this feature. We'll use the Eternal Blue for illustration. Okay, so we need to type use exploit Windows smb/ms17 Eternal Blue. No payload configured, defaulting to Windows, Meterpreter reverse shell. You will see the prompt change to this. Eternal Blue is the exploit allegedly developed by the US NSA, of course it fucking was, for the vulnerability affecting SMB v1. On numerous Windows systems, the SMB is widely used in Windows networks for file sharing and even for sending files to printers. Eternal Blue was leaked by the Shadow Brokers group in April 2017. In May, this vulnerability was exploited worldwide in the WannaCry ransomware attack. This module can also be selected with the use command followed by a number at the beginning of the search line. We're not searching for it though, so why is that relevant? So if you searched for it, you can also use, you get the list up. So if we search Eternal Blue, then we can say 0 or 1. 0, don't we? Yeah. Use 0. And then it'll use it. While the prompt has changed, you'll notice that we can still run commands previously mentioned. This means we did not enter a folder as you would typically expect in an operating system. The prompt tells us we now have a context set in which we will work. You can see this by typing the show options command. So if we do show, my head's in the way, that's clear. Show options. So we get a load of options. This will print options related to this exploit that we've chosen, which is the Eternal Blue. This show options command will have different outputs depending on the context it's being used in. The example above shows that the exploit will require that we set variables rhost, so like required yes, and rport. On the other hand, a post-exploitation module may only need us to set session ID. See the screenshot below. Session is an existing connection to a target system that post-exploitation module will use. The show command can be used in any context, followed by the module type to list available modules. So here they've done show payloads, This is underneath me again. Could swap these around. Let's do it that way. Yeah, it's better. Right, so now you can see everything I type. So, show option. Show. Woo. How you doing, Oreo?
0 Riobyte says.
Woo.
Show payloads. So we get custom, bind shells, reverse shells, XX, Meterpreter. Cool. If it's used from the MSF console prompts, the show command will list all modules. The use and show options commands we've seen so far are identical for all modules in Metasploit. You can leave the context using the back command, not the exit that I did earlier. Okay. Further information on any module could be obtained using the info command with the context. So you actually have to be in the thing. So let's go back. So using it and info. So you get a dump of all the required options when it came out and some background on it. That's quite nice. So if you can't be bothered to write your pen test report, just copy paste. There you go. Alternatively, you can use the info command followed by the modules path from the MSF console. Oh, okay, so you can do it that way. Info is not a help menu. It would display detailed information on the module such as author, relevant sources. Yeah, okay. Provided by the Shadow Brokers. Search. We've already demoed this. Search is one of the most useful commands. It will search the framework database for modules relevant to the given search parameter. You can conduct searches using CVEs, exploit names, or target system. So we do back. Search MS170101. The output of the search command provides an overview of each returned module. You may notice the name column. Not that you can really see it like that, because it's formatted horribly. You may notice the name column already gives more information than just the name, the module name. You can see the type of module, auxiliary exploit, and the category of the module, scanner, admin, Windows, etc. You can use any module returned in a search result with the command line followed by the number at the beginning of the line instead of the full name. Another essential piece of information returned back is the ranking. This exploits are rated based on their reliability. The table below provides the respective descriptions. So, an excellent, this exploit will never crash the service in the case of SQL injection, command injection, RFI, LFI. No typical memory corruption exploit should be given this ranking unless there is an extraordinary circumstance. Great ranking, so the exploit has a default target and either auto-detects the appropriate target or uses an application-specific return address after a version check. So that one's great. The exploit has a The exploit has a default target and a common case for this type of software: English, Windows 7 desktop app. If it's normal, the exploit is otherwise reliable but depends on specific version and can't or doesn't reliably auto-detect. So average. So the exploit is generally unreliable or difficult to exploit. Low is nearly impossible to exploit, under a 50% success rate. and manual, the exploit is unstable or difficult to exploit and is basically a denial of service. This ranking is used when the module has no use case specifically configured by the user. You can direct the search function using keywords such as type and platform. So how do they do? Okay, so you just have a type flag. For example, if we want our search results to only include auxiliary, we could just set type to auxiliary, and the screenshot below will output the search type auxiliary telnet. Please remember that exploits take advantage of a vulnerability on a target system and may always show unexpected behavior. A low-ranked exploit may work perfectly and an excellent ranked exploit may not, or worse, it can crash the target. How would you search for a module related to Apache? You type search Apache. Right, provide the auxiliary scanner SSH. Who provided the auxiliary scanner SSH module? So we need to info, and then who's the author? Todd B. What was the hint out of interest? Use the info command, there we go. I don't know if you necessarily needed a hint there if you'd actually read the article. Working with modules, you can launch the target machine attached to the room to replicate the example shown below. Any Metasploit 5 or 6 will have menus and screens similar to those shown here, so you can use the attack box or any operating system with them installed. Once you've entered the context of a module using the use command, followed by the module name as seen earlier, you will need to use the set parameters. The most common parameters you will use are listed below. Remember, based on the module you use, additional or extra parameters may need to be set. It's good practice to use the show options command to find out what they are. All parameters are set using the same syntax, set, and whatever the hell it's called, and the value. Before we proceed, always remember to check the MSF console prompt to ensure that you're in the right context. Dealing with Metasploit, you may see 5 different prompts. The regular prompt, which you cannot use the Metasploit commands. The MSF console prompt, you can see no context is set here, no context specific commands are set. So you can run set parameters and run modules cannot be used if you see this. You have to do that first. So if you've got a context prompt set, which is that, once you've decided to use the module and have set the commands to choose, the MSF console will show the context. You can use the context specific commands, set rhost, etc. The Meterpreter Prompt is an important payload which we'll see in detail later in the module. This means that the Meterpreter agent was loaded into the target system and has connected back to you. You can use the Meterpreter specific commands at this point. Shell on the target system. Once your exploit is completed, you may have access to a command shell on the target system. This is a regular command line. All commands typed here will run on the target system. As mentioned earlier, the show options command will list the available parameters. As you can see in the screenshot above, let's go back up. Some of these parameters require a value for the exploit to work. Some required parameter values are pre-populated. Make sure you check if these should remain the same for your target. For example, a web exploit could have a remote port on the target system that Metasploit will try to connect and run the exploit. Value preset to 80, but your target web app could be using 8080. In this example, our host parameter to the IP address of our target system using set. Once you've set the parameter, you can use show options to check all of them are set correctly. Parameters you will use often are our host, remote host, the target IP or IPs. This is a single IP address or a range. It supports the CIDR, classless into domain routing notation, or network ranges. You can also use a file where targets are listed. One target per line using the file, like using the file path. That's a really tiny screenshot. There you go. So set our hosts, and then you give it file, tag, and then whatever the file is. Remote port. This is the remote port on the vulnerable application. Payload is the payload you wish to use with the exploit. Lhost is the local host, the attacking machine. This is your IP address. And the local port is your local port that a reverse shell will connect back to. This is a port on your attacking machine, and you can set it to any port not used by another application. Session. Each connection established to the target system using Metasploit will have a session ID. You will use this with any post-exploitation modules that will connect to the target using the existing connection. You can override any set parameter using the set command again with a different value. You can also clear any parameter using the unset command, or clear all the set parameters with unset all. You can use set G to set values that will be used for all modules, so it's like a global. Set G command is used like the set command. The difference is that using set, you set the value for a module, and if you switch to another module, if you need to use it again, you will need to use the set value. Okay, I get it. Let's read that again. So this, if you use the set command and then you switch, you need to reuse set because it loses its set parameter because you've changed module. If you use the set G command and you set the value, if you switch to another module, it's already set because it's set globally. You can clear any value set globally with set G using unset G. The example below uses the following flow. Scroll nicely. So we use the MS1710 external blue exploit. We set our hosts using set G. We use the back command to leave the exploit context. We use an auxiliary. The module is the scanner to discover the vulnerabilities, and then the set show options shows the rhost parameter is already populated with the IP of target system. So step 1 is that. Step 2 is that. 3, 4, 5. Set G commands set the global variable. We've already said this, that we'll use until you exit Metasploit or clear it using unset G. Again, it's repeating. Once all module parameters are set, you can launch the module using exploit command. The Metasploit also supports the run command, which is an alias for the exploit command, as the word exploit did not make sense when using modules that were not exploits, such as port scanners, vulnerability scanners, etc. The exploit command can be used without any parameters or using the /z parameter. Exploit/z will run the exploit and background the session as soon as it opens. This will return you the context prompt for which you have run the exploit. Some modules support the check option. This will check if the target system is vulnerable without exploiting it. Once a vulnerability has been successfully exploited, a session will be created. This is the communication channel established between the target system and Metasploit. You can use the background command to background the session prompt and go back to the MSF prompt. Alternatively, Ctrl-Z can also be used to background the session. The session commands can be used from the MSF console prompt or any context to see the existing session. So you just type Sessions. To interact with any session, you can use the session I, followed by the session number, and it will reconnect to that session. So there we go. So session I2 reconnects to that connection. How would you set the L port value to 6666? You would say set L port 6666. How would you set the global value for our hosts to that? So you'd say set G our hosts 10.10.119.23.
Hello Raiders, welcome to MSEC's Twitch channel.
Hey Gar, how are you doing? Thank you for the raids. Let's give you a shout out.
Zerozrahit_ says.
Anyway, it is secret
from
one,
Gar7,
and we
sir.
can confirm that.
Voldemort
Once John, actually, yeah, John, let's get John to show.
Thank you for the
says.
follow.
I think it's because
Right.
is it just dash show?
Gar_7 says.
Yo, what up, MSEC?
No.
Good to see ya.
Oh, it's 0 cracked. Okay, wait, is words not correct?
Yeah.
Let me make sure I downloaded the right.
Have you not
The
seen
right
that?
words. Let's go back to lab description.
It's on Twitch Guru. So if you you set up the Twitch Guru, and it will just let me get my screen back. There we go. Yeah. So I've got the shout out command set up to just spit out the text into chat, but also there's like a
No, I apparently suck.
Thank you for the follow.
There's like a scene source that you add so that brings up the panel, and then you just like Twitch Guru handles it all.
Herder of Cats says.
At Gar7 Security Live created that.
Thank you for the subscription.
Gar_7 says.
Nice. Thanks for the recommendation.
So this is it.
Thank you for the follow.
Thank you for the follows. So yeah, if you do a random clip player,
Herder
if you
of
subscribe
Cats
to the
says.
guy,
Missed this add-on.
Thank you for the follow.
Zero's Bad Bunny says.
Hello.
there it is in chat if you want it as well.
Musek says.
Web link.
So yeah, you just
Thank
put
you for
in,
the follow.
you put your channel name, and then it just does the whole rest of it. And then if you subscribe, it gets rid of the Twitch.guru branding on it, or you can use it for free.
Thank you for the follow.
So yeah, thank you again for the follow. We're kind of running through some easy rooms, so
Herder
at the
of
moment,
Cats says.
Herder of Cats is a good name.
Matrix_bot_ says.
Thank you
This
for the
chat is
follow.
wild.
Oh my
Playful
God.
face.
getting all the text to speech. Yeah, so we're just running through the Metasploit introduction room. It's all the easy content, so none of it's particularly difficult. But yeah, we're just working through. We've got like a couple things left, and we're done with it. To be fair, so we're just looking at what command would you use to clear the set payload. So unset.
Herder of
want-
Cats says.
I've done this recently. Super useful.
I guess we just put unset payload. It's not telling me what thing. Yeah, cool. Well, that would be the actual payload. What command would you use to proceed with the exploitation phase?
Unset or unset?
Exploit. Unset. Yeah, unset G would be the global. So this is
Exploit or run?
yeah. I only put exploit there because if you look at the stars, it had a load of them. So that one is done. So as we've seen, Metasploit is a powerful tool that facilitates the exploitation process. Comprises 3 main steps: finding the exploit, customizing the exploit, and exploiting the vulnerable service. This actually lied to us. It said it was going to get us to do like all the session connections, which it didn't. Which I'm guessing they've chucked into the other ones. So does it not tell us the other room? Normally these have like a follow-up.
Can't have them all.
Yeah. The only thing though is that, so I'm running through all the free rooms because I wanted to really see what was available with absolutely zero cost. And if we look at it, I bet you all the other Metasploit ones are paid. So I'm going to do it.
Zeros, Bad Bunny says.
Keeping that streak alive on the easy.
Herder of Cats says.
Rooms are sequential.
Yeah,
After
120.
finishing one, it will tell you what room is next.
Yeah, oh, that's in the paths though, isn't it? I think. Not that one. It's the path. One of these. Metasploit? I swear one of these says which one's Metasploit. It's in. Yeah, learning.
Zeros, Bad Bunny says.
That's impressive.
There
I
we go.
always lose mine.
Yeah, I keep losing mine actually. It proper annoys me actually. If you go to the, I don't know, like, so I tend to sort of log in quite late to like make sure I get a daily, at least one submission, even if I haven't run through the content. But if you log in like 5 minutes after midnight, you lose your streak, even though you've submitted one in time. And if you go to your daily tracked, like the daily events that you've triggered, it comes up as a valid submission for that day. So if you email their support team, as long as you haven't like got like a week-long stretch between your streaks, they'll actually restart your streak as long as you haven't like taken the piss too much. So yeah, I've got like a couple breaks in mine where it didn't register right, and yeah, you just ask them nicely and they restart it. It's nice.
Herder of Cats says.
I lost my streak after switching from paid subscription to voucher despite logging in and doing tasks.
Oh, what? Yeah, if you definitely just send us a support ticket in that case, and they should probably sort it out. Well, it depends if you've bothered. Like, that's another thing with streaks that annoys me, is that because there's a 24-hour window between the last event you trigger and then like subsequent things that trigger the next streak. It's quite deflating losing your streak, which kind of puts you off using the platform. And it's kind of dumb. Like,
Okay. Thank you. I will. Didn't know they can fix it.
yeah. So if it's a legitimate
Yeah.
reason that you could
It's
have redone it.
demoralizing.
Yeah, so it's kind of like I've suggested this on Twitter that they actually extend it out, make it like a 48-hour window, but whether or not they actually do it or not. And then you don't, it's not the mad stress of like, oh, I've got to like log in 5 minutes to midnight and make sure I don't lose my streak. It's like, yeah, it's just dumb. I don't like that kind of forced learning. Like, it should still be, it's like some amount of leeway in it. Like, alright, yeah, here we go. So this is my point. If you do the
For me,
freebie,
it resets at 2 a.m.
okay, yeah. So if it resets at 2 a.m, even if you submitted something midnight to 2 a.m, like for me at least, you'll lose it. I'm GMT, so I'm guessing I'm where the servers are. Yeah. So if we do Metasploit intro, which is free, all of the other Metasploit modules are paid. Yeah, just why? It's all using the open source tools as well. It's like kind of counterproductive. Like, it's only £6, but still, it's like, that's not the point. Especially if you're using your own attack box. Like,
The Windows labs are free too.
yes,
The first
yeah,
three.
one of them is streak related. You need like a week-long streak. I haven't done that one actually. So Let's see what's next. These are the uncompleted ones, so I can probably do a poll. Which room should we do next? General Kenobi. Over. Yeah, Reef is the one that's locked, so let's do a 3-minute poll. Let's go on this. Come on.
Didn't get to the boxes yet. Still on the paths. But Kenobi was done since it was part of a room's task.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so this one, where's the streak prerequisite? Streak limitation only for non-subscribed users. So yeah, if your streak isn't 7, or it might be 14 actually, then you can't even do this room. So